we left in, we walked a lot. We walked for days and nights with just stopping in a place and getting this little soup, whatever they had, and this piece of bread. And she wouldn't let me for a minute that I should stay back or, just not be next to her. And if I did, so she was shouting, Ruzhenka, and I always was really next to her. But I used to know. What I used to stay back was because I saw many on the way, blood, and they were shot. Already people ahead of me,
Yes.
that they were left on the sides,
Yes.
or hearing the shootings that we heard all the time. They were shooting on the way. And then we were in little open trains, little, like they carry today, I would say, 7 or just like Argazim, like little
Boxes.
So we were carried in that, or like sardines. And we arrived to Ravensbrück. I can't describe you to repeat. It was horror, the way they carried us and pushed us and shouted us and at us and it was terrible.
Ravensbrück was already in Germany?
Ravensbrück was in Germany. Oh yes, Ravensbrück today when I'm in Germany and I see that. You see Ravensbrück. I'll go one day there.
How long did the march?
Because Jose wants very much to go there.
How long did the march take you from?
It must have taken days, but I don't remember.
No.
I only remember each time that we stopped. We stopped for a while in a shed, the farmer's place, and got some bread queuing up and getting again something to eat. A little, of course, because that's why people just sat down and didn't continue and couldn't, and they shot them. Or those who didn't listen, or those who didn't march exactly the way they wanted, so they shot them on the way. I mean, just next to me, and that's why she really wouldn't leave me.
No.
And she was strong. She was strong because she had enough food. She had lots of food. She had, because you see, her lover used to bring her. He used to work with those who arrive.
Yes.
And he was hiding it, and he was an engineer, and he was needed, and he was helping her a lot.
Yes.
Well, then in Ravensbrück, as I said, that I didn't want to go with her, and she was taken to a different camp from me. I saw there 2 girls, 2 women, and they were so nice to each other, and I liked that so much, and I wished so much I would belong to them. And I used to follow them like a little dog, and until I approached them one day, and I said, would they take me with them? Could I belong to them? Because you see, everybody belonged to somebody, and because I was with her all the time, I didn't have belonged. They all looked really. You could survive easier being with somebody.
Yes.
There were little groups of 2 or 4 or 3. They
supported.
Yes, they supported each other, and I had now nobody. And they took me in. They were older than me at the time. I mean, then it was a lot because they were already married before. Because in Czechoslovakia, they thought and they announced that if they marry, then they will survive. And very many young people married before they went to Auschwitz. Anyway, Hilda and Margaret, there were 2 girls, Hilda and Margaret, and they were married before. And they were actually 22. I was then already 16, yes. And it was very nice to be with them together, and we went to a different camp which was called Redzov, And there we were together, and one of them, there I was again lucky because one of those barak, who's responsible, how do you call them, those capos, one of the capos from Auschwitz, recognized me that I was with Ella, and she asked me would I work for her, because she got in this new camp. She was there already before us, and she also was evacuated, but she was already before we arrived to this Redzov. She was already there, and she was again in the same tafkid, in the same task, being a capo. And then she recognized me. She asked me would I be her pupil. A pupil, they call them pupils.
Yeah.
And of course I accepted. And it turned out that Hilda knew her from Czechoslovakia. She was from Czechoslovakia too. She was her madricha, but she ignored Hilda. Anyway, I was her pupil, and again I had it quite good. I went to the kitchen for food, for the camp, for the barak. I used to be sent to bring the food in those big cans. A few girls of us, a few were picked to go and get the food. And when I went to get the food, there was one, he was an Austrian, who watched how they're giving out the food. And he called me, "Komm her, du Kleine," you little one, in Austrian, Kleine. And he called me, and he gave me separately. He gave me bread and cheese. And he said, "But that's for you, not to give it." Anyway, I had it again I was quite all right. So we shared it, of course, with Hilda and Margaret. We shared what I used to get from him. And but that didn't last for too long because Yoli was the capo, and she slowly wanted me to sleep with her, and Hilda realized that this is no good, that she's lesbian, and then she kicked me out because I didn't accept to sleep with her, and I was kicked out in the camp together with Hilda and Margaret, and because they decided for me, because they were older and they understood what's going on.
Yes.
Because I said that I'm so lucky, she likes me so much, even more than
Yes.
I had that one. Anyway, so I was. But while that went on, before I went in to sleep with her, I was standing also. I didn't have to stand on the street on Celape, on call, roll call. Hilda and Margaret had to, and one day Hilda was very sick, she had typhoid, and I went out to stand instead of her, and I left her to be in her barak, in the barak. I mean, we were in the same barak, but in her bed, and that worked. I could go out. Yoli knew because, and she couldn't say anything. After all, she had a conscience on herself, on her, because Hilda was, in the good times in Czechoslovakia, used to be her madricha. And she let me do it. So that was very lucky for Hilda, because she wouldn't survive. And I had a bit of more food, rice. I asked them from this, he was, I already forgot his name. He was in the kitchen that he looked after the food, I told you, the Austrian German. And he gave me this extra, and Hilda survived that typhoid. Really. And then from then on, when I wasn't with Yoli, we used to go out to work and build and dig trenches for the Germans. That's where they took us out to work. With Hilda and Margaret, we used to go together. And that was already in beginning of 45. And the bombardments began to come, the bombardments, and it was
They intensified.
very intensified. And you see, there we were together with Polish girls and Russian girls in Ravensbrück, because I just remember, because when they bombarded and the Germans were in the bunkers, they ran away, and we used to scream and dance, and they used to sing Vishe, Vishe, that's the songs, you know, just come on and bombard, and we were happy, we were dancing and shouting. And of course we paid for it, because after that the Germans let us stand for hours and hours in roll call, standing, and because it was still cold. Yes, it was for beginning. Yes, it was, could have been February. Yeah, here I remember it was in February, because 3 Wehrmacht decided that they picked us out, Hilda, Margaret, and myself. It went already towards the end, and asked us to go with them. They will be saving our lives if we will save their lives after the liberation. And because they had a problem for me, they had to have long sleeves, because they didn't have the numbers. They were not in Auschwitz, Hilda and Margaret. They were taken, really towards the end. The train stopped in Auschwitz, but they went to Ravensbrück. And with me, they had a problem, the Wehrmacht, because of the number. They didn't want to take me, and of course Hilda and Margaret would. I must take a lolly after this.
Sure.
And they insisted that I must also come. And towards the end it was really very, very bad, because they emptied the camp by taking trucks and trucks. There was no crematorium there, but there was I think in Ravensbrück or another place. They used to take trucks and from the camp, and there was no selections. They were just taken groups of people out. So Hilda and Margaret didn't want to leave me, and they spoke very well German. You see, and they could even speak as Austrians, because Bratislava is just like a suburb from Vienna.
Yes.
And anyway, I fell into this group. I was taken as well, and we ran away. One day, they just stayed behind and left us behind. They left us behind, went in, because they always passed the group of workers to the gate, and they came back, and we stayed till the night, and we went off with them. We were like 3 girls with the boyfriends. And as I said, it was towards the end, and they acted as, I don't know how they could, how come they didn't look for them? But it was a balagan. And that was in February, because for a month we were with them hiding, because they were also hiding. Afterwards, we just went off with them, that they were still with the uniforms.
Yes.
And troops meeting and going, and we went, I don't know, day and night. And then we were in, it also must have been not far from Berlin, because later on we got to a forest, and we stayed with them, and we could hear, they wanted us to go one direction where the Americans came in. But we wanted to go to the Russians. They thought, it's not even so much me, because I was the little one. Hilda and Margaret, they were the knowledgeable the experienced women. And they thought Russians they can speak, and they rather wanted to go to the Russians. And the Germans came, and we heard the women, German women, shouting that they raped them, the Russians raped them. And they occupied us, the Russians liberated us, we welcomed them very much, and we never went back to the Germans, and of course we passed them. We passed them in, we told them where they are. We were 2 against 1. Margaret didn't want to do that. She said they were fair to us and we shouldn't do that. But Hilda and myself, there I had a voting, I could vote. I could not, but I said, no. Because we saw their behavior. They took us, we worked for a long time, digging and how they behaved. Anyway, we passed them into the Russians. That was our liberation by the Russians.